morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a look at a very weird Arceus and Dialga and Palkia deck. Now, ADP is everywhere at the moment. Since it came out in Cosmic Eclipse, it has just been absolutely ruling the format. It's been pretty gosh darn good. And it is pretty gosh darn good. The first attack for a water, a metal, and a colourless lets you do 150 damage while attaching up to 3 basic energies from your deck to your Pokemon in any way that you like. The GX attack, though, is a real star here. 1 metal energy, and you get to do an extra 30 damage on all of your Pokemon for the rest of the game. But a metal and a water, you also, as well as doing the extra 30, get to take an extra prize every time you take a KO for the remainder of the game. It is, arguably a little bit over the top stupid good. Okay. So that's the main bit of the deck, and we've been using this for a while now. ADP is not particularly new or interesting or exciting. It actually is really new. It's just we kind of know at this stage. We know what ADP does. It looks like it should be a little bit slow, but it's not a little bit slow. It's a very fun deck indeed. So what's different about this deck? Well, you do play 1 copy of Megalopony and Jigglypuff, which is a very nice card. The real attraction here, 3 colourless energy, and you do 60 damage base plus 60 more for each EX or GX that your opponent has in play. So if your opponent's got lots of EX and GX Pokemon, you do lots of damage. And this is rather lovely. It's a really good Pokemon, and it's basically going to be a one-of in any deck that can manage it. Arceus and Dialga and Palkia accelerates energy. That's one of the things that it does so well with the first attack. So the fact that it accelerates energy means that it's a very good bet for using with something like Megalopony and Jigglypuff, where the energy acceleration is what you need. But this is where the list starts to get a little bit different and a little bit interesting. There is a free line of Froslass. Now, on the one hand, 1 water energy, 40 damage plus sleep is fine, though, shall we say, fairly uninspiring. But far better than that. 1 water energy, you do 20 damage for every damage counter you put on Froslass, and you are allowed to put up to 7 damage counters on Froslass. Now the rule here, and it was a rule that actually came around with a Mamoswine card, which is pretty awesome, is that you can put 7 damage counters on, regardless of how many damage counters there already are on there. So there can be 7 damage counters on, such that you've only got 10 HP remaining, but if your opponent does not KO Froslass, you are then allowed to put another 7 damage counters on there, and then you get KO'd, but that's fine. You put 7 damage counters on, you do 140 damage, you then go, oh wait, there's enough damage on Froslass to KO it, and Froslass gets KO'd, and Froslass goes away. And this is weird, because it's not really for every deck. Now let's be super clear about this. If you are expecting to play a large amount of Reshiram and Charizard decks, yes, this is amazing. This is an absolutely phenomenal tech against Reshiram and Charizard. But you do have to ask the question, how many of them are out there? You know, Robin Schultz did just go and win the Latin American International Championships with a quote-unquote Reshiram and Charizard deck, except he played 1 copy of Reshiram and Charizard and no energy recovery. He could easily play games with that deck over and over again without ever having to use Reshiram and Charizard. So on the one hand, it's a bit of a meta call, but it is a sneaky good card against non-GXs. Now, non-GX decks aren't everywhere at the moment. That's a bit of a pain. But if you find yourself against a non-GX deck, this is surprisingly good. Let's say you're against something like an Oranguru. Well, against an Oranguru, you put 6 damage counters on, you do 120, you get a KO. And then next turn, you can do it again to get another KO. And it's for a single energy, and you're taking a prize every turn, And each prize is basically costing you a single energy, meaning that your opponent trying to get rid of your energy is going to have a more difficult time. That's not to say it gives you an auto win against an Oranguru deck, but it is to say that you basically have a single prize attacker for a single energy that can run through non-GXs. One of the issues of a deck like Arceus and Dialga Palkia is that if you go too heavy into GXs and tag team GXs, your opponent can win the prize race. If you're using 3 prize Pokemon, they can use 2 prize Pokemon. If you're using 2 prize Pokemon, they can use 1 prize Pokemon. What this deck does so well is it gives you a really good option as a single prize Pokemon. And as a side note, it's really good against Blacephalon. Blacephalon, great. Non-GX is great. Reshiram and Charizard, great. But against other ADP decks? Against Mewtwo and Mew decks? I'm not sure how well it holds up. It might be a meta call. Here's the thing, though. Doesn't have to be Froslass. This could be a deck that you use as a bit of a basis to make decks built around other Pokemon along with ADP. Although it's always going to be easier if they're water or metal Pokemon, given that they are the 2 energies that you're going to be using for ADP. Now, we also see one copy here of Deoxys. I love Deoxys here. I'm genuinely surprised that Deoxys hasn't seen more play. This Deoxys is a lovely Pokemon that attacks for 2 energy. And what it does is 20 damage base, plus 20 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It did see a little bit of play for a while, and then it kind of dropped off the earth. Not having double colourless energy hurts, but we don't care about not having double colourless energy because we can accelerate energy using Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. And this is a good counter to Mewtwo and Mew. Yeah, they're going to play Jirachi and that's a bit of a pain, but Jirachi's also a 2 prize Pokemon with 160 HP, so, you know, in a world where Great Catcher exists, happy to confirm this deck is playing Great Catcher, it becomes far more of a liability than it ever was before. Jirachi is a lot more nerve-wracking with Great Catcher than when we were all sitting around trying to rock Custom Catcher, where you had to get 2 in your hand at the same time. It was far less reliable. And yes, there's 3 copies of Jirachi, because Jirachi gives consistency. We get it, Jirachi's good. Now, in terms of energy, we're playing a mixture of water and metal, because that's what ADP needs. We're skewed towards water here. 8 water, 5 metal, because you need the water for Froslass. There we go. Now, in terms of the trainer line here, is an awful lot of what you would expect. We are playing 4 copies of Power Plant here. Power Plant turns off GX abilities, things like Dedenne, for instance. You're not using GX abilities. Your opponent might be. Also allows you to hit a Keldeo using an ADP, so yeah, alright. This seems to be the one to go for. I mean, you're not relying on GX abilities, your opponent might be, could give you a rather large advantage. Our draw cards are Cynthia and Lily here, which I know is a little bit boring, but I'm sorry. And like we see in so many of these kind of decks, 1 copy of Counter Gain. Counter Gain is wonderful. I love Counter Gain. And the reason I love Counter Gain so much is because if you're down a prize, you get to attach it, and then all of a sudden you're attacking for 2 energy rather than 3. Or 1 energy with Deoxys. And this is huge because you can sit there, in this deck especially, attacking with Froslass. And let's say your opponent KOs 2 Froslass. They've got 4 prizes left to take. They take 3 prizes off of an ADP. They've got 1 prize left to take. But if the only thing you've got left on your side of the field is ADP, then your opponent's still got to KO a tag team to win the game, even though they've only got 1 prize remaining. So using Counter Gain and trying to give away 2 prizes but no more is a really, really good thing to do here and helps us out greatly. The one thing we are really missing from this deck is Ultra Ball and Nest Ball, but honestly, we've seen a whole bunch of these kind of decks playing a lot of non-GXs, like, for instance, Robin's List, which did play a Ninetales line as well as Jirachi, just using Pokemon Communication. And if you can win an international championship playing a Stage 1 line in a tag team decks just using Pokemon Communication, you can probably get away with it in a deck like this as well. Although worth noting that Robin did play quite a bit of Pokemon Draw as well, so maybe you add some in, I don't know. That one's up to you. It's a very, very fun deck. It's a unique take on ADP, one that I like very much indeed. It really is a very meta-specific build for if you're expecting a lot of fire decks. But if you are expecting a lot of fire decks, this is amazing, and if you're not, that free Froslass could be a free something else. Either way, I'd like to know what you think about this deck and whether you'd want to use this as a skeleton, and if so, what else would you play instead of Froslass? Go nuts in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen, but please do remember the rules. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.